bit. So welcome to our fifth Core KPI webinar. This is going to be covering revenue per technician per day, another one of our long named KPIs, but I think it's our last long named KPI. So the rest of them will be one per KPI versus these two ones. So
in SEO, they call them like long tail keywords. So maybe these are long tail core
long
KPIs.
tail long tail core KPIs. Yeah, no, that's because it's like the cleans per month per home and then the revenue per technician per day. And I think those are the only two long ones. And the rest of them are all, clean rate, skip rate, absentee rate, all of those things. So a lot more straightforward. But for anybody who is new, who hasn't come to a registration or come to a registration before, oh my goodness, come to a webinar, one of our core KPI webinars before. I'm Aja Holiday. I'm the Education and Training Manager at Made Central, and I'm joined by Tom Seward, our founder and CEO at Made Central. And we host these core KPI webinars once a month, covering a core KPI that we track in Made Central to talk about what the core KPIs are, focus on one core KPI each month, what that KPI is, how to improve it, what are some things that impact it, and what are some tools that you can use to help better your business with these core KPIs as well. Did you want to answer this question now?
Yeah, that's on our website, madecentral.com/events, I believe.
I think we're working on getting a different repository for the recordings for these. So keep an eye out for an email. We switched up the registration link starting with this one. So if you registered for this webinar, you should be registered for all the upcoming core KPI webinars as well, which will give you access to those recordings. But then the previous ones, I believe we're working on getting those uploaded into a good place. But if you did previously register for them, you have the recording for them. If you have not registered for them, I think we have some of them on that events page, but I do believe we're working on getting those into a centralized place.
We were reworking that yesterday. I don't see them, but we'll get that straight in the next day or two. If you go to maycentral.com, in the top menu, one of the options is resources, and there's a bunch of pages underneath that. And it'll either be in events or it'll have its own tag that says past events, but that's where you'll be able to see the old ones.
Yeah, and we have all the registrations for this one and the last one as well. And my plan is to send out an email to everybody with the link to those so that you guys can get those past ones if you weren't able to make the past ones. So speaking of events, some upcoming events that we do have. I didn't realize I made some fun little
Oh my goodness.
Animations. Look at that. Doing some fun things here. I didn't realize. So first one that we have coming up here is kind of a new thing for us. We're doing a one-day event at Helping Hands, hosted by Goja Baran, for a Made Central AI workshop. It's going to be a one-day event with a couple members of our Made Central team, really just diving into AI tools, how to really leverage those in our industry, kind of getting an understanding of the differences between the AI tools that are available, and really how to use those in our industry, and not just the hype around AI, but really real world examples, demonstrations, workshopping it, talking through how you guys can use it in real world practical applications. So pretty excited about this one, actually.
That's going to be at Gosha's office, and our event's on a Monday, June 10. There is a ISSA residential regional event on Sunday, June 9th. And if you've ever been to a regional event at Gosha's office, it's great. It's worth going just for the food alone. The catering is awesome, but the event's going to be good. This artificial intelligence event is like a full day, and it's basically just AI tools that you can use in your business every day, and we'll be showing you a bunch of really cool stuff. And space is limited, and I have no doubt that this is going to sell out. So If you're interested, you want to jump on it early, you just go to madecentral.ai, and that's how you register for that. And while you're at it, go to the ISSA website, and you can register for the regional event on that Sunday as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you haven't been to Goja's office, for Helping Hands, her office is really amazing. She did a really good job. Creating a great space for these types of events. And Karen, I love that little comment. You're like, would love for you to come to Canada for an event and maybe at your office. We might reach out. We might talk to you. We'll see. But we're always looking for places for good regional events. And we know that we have a lot of Canadian partners up there. So, and other people that we haven't even brought in. So we might chat. We might chat with you later, but I'm happy that you're here.
My passport expired like last week, so I'm gonna have to get on that. But Canada would be fun. It would be. As far as the replay on this, Karen, it's a live event, and I don't think it's going to be recorded. So, I mean, if there's a recording, sure. But typically we don't, because it's a lot of it's a workshop where everybody's kind of logging into the computer and we're all kind of doing stuff together, and the recordings just are kind of like a half a loaf, not quite the same thing.
Yeah, we've tried even recording it while we've been there, and it's definitely there's a lot more that goes into it, getting a good combination of what's happening in the room versus what's happening on the screen. So we haven't quite figured that combination of tools yet.
And Michelle, can we do it as a virtual event? I don't know if that's a consideration.
Yeah,
We've never really done a virtual workshop before, but you know,
it would open up possibilities.
let's get this one under our belt. We'll see where it takes us.
You know what we call this at Made Central, or at least what I call this is I call this a mouse with a cookie. You know the book, if you give a mouse a cookie, it's going to want a glass of milk, and then the whole book continues on and on from that. That's what this feels like. The events and the things like this. It's like, oh, here's a great event. Give a mouse a cookie. Can we do this with it? I love it. I love it though. It's so fun. All right. So, but that's a really good idea, though. Actually, we haven't even talked about virtual events in a while, but we do have another event also coming up. And that is we have another live event. This will probably be the last MCA live of the year. Um, Most likely because we've got convention in November. So very unlikely that we'll get another one somehow popped in between that. But this one will be in September, end of September in Charleston, which I think will be a wonderful time to be in Charleston. Am I right in thinking that?
Oh, it's always a wonderful time to be in Charleston.
What about, temperature wise, you know,
Yeah, it'll be cooler. Humidity will be down a little bit. It'll be
nice,
nice. It's beautiful here
nice.
in September.
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't been there in September yet, I don't think. I think we've skipped over September a couple of times. So we've got our 3-day event happening in Charleston. This is the first time that we're actually taking the 3-day event to Charleston. So we're really excited about that. Being able to kind of combine the two methods that we've done over the last 2 years for the live events. So if you felt like you've missed out on our MCA Live, the other ones that we've done this year, this is the last opportunity this year. So definitely jump on that. Registering is at madecentral.academy, or also at the madecentral.com/events. So all of our upcoming events are on there where you can register for those. So without further ado, we'll hop into our core KPIs. So a little bit of our agenda, we're going to go into what is revenue per technician per day, how do we increase it, what are some other of the roles that quoting or consistency have on this KPI, and then just kind of going over some of our tools and resources. We're typically pretty good about answering questions as they come up during the webinar, since they usually kind of flow with the conversation. But if anything does come up that we're not able to answer during the moment, we'll answer those ones at the end as well. We do leave a section open for that, but we tend to answer during the slides as we go. So if you haven't been here before, our core KPIs, we have coincidentally, we have 12 of them. So they are our key performance indicators to help best move the needle on your business and improve your business to where you want it to go. So when you're talking about professional management, really understanding what numbers that you should be looking at and what numbers you should be pressing on and what direction you want to be pressing them towards, can really help you understand how much value your actions have on your results. So we have 12 of these KPIs for Made Central, and there's 12 months in the year, so we've got a nice little synergy here.
And it made central. Obviously, we've got many more than just 12 KPIs, but we call these the core KPIs because over the years we've developed models and we have a forecasting tool that can take these 12 KPIs and it can do a pretty good job of predicting your recurring revenue at points in the future, be it 2 months from now or 2 years from now, based on these core KPIs. And not only revenue, but profit, the number of technicians you're going to have. It predicts, you know, the important metrics you need to manage both pipelines, cleaning professional as well as sales. And if you don't like the outcomes, you can then make the green core KPIs get bigger, the revenues get smaller, and that's why these are special because you can basically run your business off of these 12 core KPIs.
Yeah, so we're almost halfway through the year here, which is crazy. So we're almost done with our green KPIs, which are our drive up numbers, the numbers that we want more of. Essentially, a lot of people associate green with good, red with bad. And that can work. We want more of the good things and less of the bad things. So if that helps in terms of remembering how you want to drive these numbers, that's a good way to help remember that. But so far, we've been focusing on these numbers that we're driving up. So revenue per technician per day is another one that we're driving up. And in terms of the tools that we have to use these core KPIs with, you can find those at toolbox.madecentral.com. This was previously core KPIs, corekpi.madecentral.com. That still works, but we did rebrand it a little bit just to help people remember it a little easier since it's more than just the core KPIs. It is really a toolbox with more than just the core KPI stuff now. We've got some for performance calculators on there now. And I think we're working on getting some other calculators built up as well. So it really is just becoming an overall toolbox for residential cleaning businesses to use, with some of the big ones right now being the profit planning tool, our growth forecaster, and our growth comparison tool in terms of using these core KPIs to see where your business is now and where those actions or those KPIs will take you in the near future or even the long-term future.
And one of the newer tools, which is pretty cool, is we have a tool to help you figure out how to structure a performance pay system. If you want to know what percent commission you should pay or what you should pay per job ticket hour, we've got a calculator that will do that for you.
Yes, and anybody can create an account here, and you can create a single account per company and then have different users on that company. So you can create different models that you might want to use. So this is a free tool to use. We highly recommend creating an account for your company and adding as many users on your strategic team that you need. All right, so what is revenue per technician per day? Well, it's the average amount of revenue generated by each technician in a single day. We take the total revenue and divide that by the number of days worked. This could be on a single technician basis, or this could be on a company-wide basis where we're taking all the revenue generated over the course of a long period of time, and then taking all the technicians and all the days that they worked during that period of time to get this average revenue amount. Right now, our average range, as far as like the middle kind of 50% in Made Central. Oh, yeah, I'll just throw that. It's toolbox.madecentral.com, Karen. Sorry, I think Tom's getting up there. I'm easily distracted and he stopped looking over
I'll add
there.
that to the chat.
Thank you. So right now our average range for Made Central users, as far as like that middle 50%, is between 245 per technician to about 322 per technician. We do have some that are higher than that and some that are a little bit lower than that. But as far as like that kind of middle range, this is about the average generated revenue per technician per day. So obviously this is a green number, so we want to drive this number up. The higher that we can get this number, the better outcomes we tend to see in our businesses. And what, in terms of outcomes, what are we looking for in our businesses? Well, we want to bring this back to our three stakeholders. And we kind of talk about this during each one of our KPI webinars is our three stakeholders. So we've got our company, right? Just the business as a whole is one stakeholder. We've got our company, our customers as another stakeholder, and our technicians as another stakeholder in the success of our business. And all of three of these stakeholders need to be winning for everybody to be winning. There's no case where one of these stakeholders can be winning and another one can be losing. That creates a long-term successful business. If the company's not winning and the technicians and customers are winning, the company's not going to last for very long. If the customers aren't winning and the technicians and company are winning, then the company's not going to last long. So it has to be a win-win-win scenario to really push forward. So when we're talking about these KPIs and talking about driving these numbers in the direction that we want to, we're always talking about driving these numbers in a way that helps all three stakeholders win in a way that promotes operational excellence and has a productive use of the capital that we have, whether that's the human capital in our technicians, financial capital in our profit margins, or customer capital. I don't know what customer capital looks like, but there's lots of different capital that we can use and how we're using that productively. So, any questions so far?
The more revenue per day a technician can generate, the better jobs you have an opportunity to create. And the better jobs, you're going to get better outcomes. Your customers are going to be happier. Your business is going to be better. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. So that's fits right in. So on top of that, just like the better jobs that you can create with having higher value revenue per day is some other things that you can get out of an increased revenue per technician per day. That long-tailed, what was it? Long-tailed?
A long tail core KPI.
Long-tailed core KPI. So some of the things that you can get as far as benefits out of improving this number or improving this core KPI is really helping to assess individual technician performance, being able to optimize your resource allocation, understanding, where, and this kind of really goes into maximizing the return on human capital as well, getting an idea of how to make the most of your productive hours, being able to provide incentives around revenue and in production, making informed decisions about capacity planning and profitability. This helps in terms of sales and understanding how much you can sell and make the most of your productive capacity, and the most of your productive time. So if you have low revenue numbers and high productive time, those don't usually end up working out very well. And one of the kind of hidden gems of this is that higher, kind of a correlation of this, a higher revenue per technician per day usually comes along with more predictability, or it's a correlation here where more predictability in your schedule aids in optimizing your routes and then managing your workloads to maximize that efficiency. So that's a big part of how this gets increased. So they're kind of they're so closely intertwined that they're kind of a impact on each other, that by improving your routes, you improve your revenue per technician per day, but improving that can also improve your routes. So they work together, they work back and forth a little bit. So yeah, a couple of ways that this can help improve your business. So how do we make this higher? How do we improve this KPI? Well, we've kind of narrowed this down to 5 specific groupings of how we can increase this revenue per day per technician. First one is just increasing the rate on the job. Just blanket, the bill rate on that job, making that a higher rate will increase the revenue per day per technician. One thing that we don't always talk about is how quoting plays into this. Having an accurate quoting system and making sure that you're maximizing your productive capacity each day. Reducing your time between jobs, and then increasing productivity in jobs. So those two are separate pieces of the same puzzle, right? You want to reduce the time between jobs to be able to maximize revenue, but then you also want to make sure the time in jobs is being used effectively as well to maximize that revenue. And then one piece here that just constantly comes up is prioritizing consistency. It's funny how often this one comes up during Core KPI webinars, but it's a big one in this one as well.
It's kind of a cure for a lot of different problems. Reduce time between jobs. For those of you who use Made Central, that's what we refer to as efficiency. It's job time divided by clock time. So if you can think of this as, you know, we want to, if we can charge more, we want to do that. If we can quote accurately, and quoting is a function of getting the allowed time, how long is it going to take to do the job? That's really the hard part of the quoting. The easy part is putting a rate to it. So you want to charge, if you can charge more, do it. You want to be able to accurately predict how long it's going to take to do the job, manage efficiency, manage productivity, and the secret sauce to a lot of our problems, consistency.
Absolutely. So let's dive into each one of these a little bit because each one has pieces involved with it that you can try. Some things you might be working, some things you might feel like you're doing really well on this, and some things you might be able to find pieces that you can implement into your own businesses. So the first part of increasing the rates on jobs, we've got some basics here, increasing your hourly rate. We've seen that our hourly rates have consistently kind of driven up, with the majority of people being over that $50 per hour rate now. Kind of between that 50 to 60 is pretty norm right now, but easy way to bump up the revenue per day is bumping up the hourly rate. Another part of that is regular rate increases. If you aren't doing regular rate increases, I can't imagine that there's a lot of people that are still not doing a lot of regular rate increases, especially with how bad inflation has been in the last couple of years, but don't get complacent. I feel like we've seen a little bit of that in the last even 6 to 9 months. There was like a good period of time with with really consistent rate increases happening, and then it just kind of really slid back. So worried that people might be sliding into old habits now that things have settled down, but it's still really important to stay on top of rate increases, even if it's just a small percentage. Just keeping on top of keeping things in line and moving things up bit by bit each year to stay in line with where things are right now economically. Um, Another part of this is really being quick to adjust jobs. So this is different than rate increases. Rate increases being that the job time isn't changing, we're just increasing the rate due to cost of living, inflation, general economic increases in cost. Rate adjustments are the job is underpriced or undertimed and needs to be adjusted. So anytime something like this comes up, that we're adjusting it quickly. And this might be because something has changed in the home. You know, they got a new pet, they had another baby, people moved into the house. Maybe they started working from home, or maybe they started working out of the home. Things like that affect how the scope of work on the house is.
They
So
built an addition.
they built an addition. Yeah. So those types of things and making adjustments on those quickly can really impact this number. Because if you wait too long on those, you might see that number really dropping down because they're taking more time, but we're not necessarily increasing the revenue on that. And then add-on services, just generally, ovens, fridges, windows, the things that you maybe aren't doing all the time, but people like to have on their services, dishes, laundry, that you're willing to have as add-on services. I just keep throwing things on in the middle of my sentence, but um, all of those things can be added on to help improve that revenue per job rate. We do have a question here from Melissa. Do you have a magic time frame you recommend for adjusting jobs? I don't know about magic, but
For underpriced jobs, you want to be looking for that constantly.
mhm. Yeah, there's a couple of companies that I've heard of that have some pretty good workflows that I really like. Um, I think
Chris
biggest
Willett,
recommendation is looking at it like daily,
yeah.
looking at your uh budgeted times, so like your allowed times compared to the actual times. And anytime one comes up that's really off, seeing that as an indicator that something isn't as it should be, looking into that home and seeing if that is something that is happening regularly or not. And then maybe it might take a little bit more of a deep dive of asking the technicians, hey, what happened on this job? Do you think that's going to be an ongoing thing, or is this just a one-time thing? But also maybe just adjusting it for that singular job. So it's kind of like the magic time frame is instantly. um, you're always looking at those really jobs that are going, decently over, figuring out why they're going over and if that's something that needs to be adjusted then for that singular job, or if it's something that needs to be adjusted ongoing.
A quick
Does
look at
that?
your dispatch report every day. The dispatch board rather will give you an eyeball look at jobs that took longer than they were supposed to.
Yeah.
That's really what
Yeah.
we're
So,
talking about.
yep.
It's a little more to it. You got to get into, the productivity and the normalized, rate. But for starters, just
Yeah. So speaking of productivity, we'll jump right into that. So
can we talk
productivity.
about add-ons? Just one other
Yeah.
thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a service. You can charge more if somebody wants a particular time of day or day of week, or um, if it's a longer drive than normal. You can I know some people charge mileage surcharge, gas, surcharge if gasoline's more expensive. There's a bazillion things that you can charge extra for. And in Made Central, you can set that up at a service set level and make it recurring. So once you set it up
Hmm.
once, you're always charging that extra amount. It can be a set amount or it can be a percentage.
Yeah. And you can set those up based off of zip codes, billing types, things like that, just to make sure that you're appropriately assigning charges wherever you want them to go.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments here? Cool. So yeah, on to productivity. Some starting to get into some mathage here, so stick with us. But productivity is just really looking at in-job time. So we're looking at the allowed job time, which is like the job ticket hours. So how much time is scheduled for the job, for an average cleaning technician to clean it. And then we've got the actual job time, the actual time that was spent cleaning the home. If we take the allowed job time divided by the actual, that will give us our productivity. Nope, it is actual divided by allowed, isn't it?
Productivity is allowed divided by actual.
It is? Why do I
Yeah.
always confuse
Because
myself?
if my actual is less than my allowed, it's going to be over 100%.
That's why in my head I was thinking of them opposite in numbers. It's fine, everybody.
You were testing us.
I was
It's
testing you.
tricky.
Yep, I was testing you all. You passed. Good job. So we've got, yep, allowed hours divided by actual hours. And productivity can be less than or greater than 100, but the goal is to be around 100. And what we mean by that is, and this comes into play a lot more in quoting than necessarily when looking at individual technician productivity. So when I'm talking about the goal being around 100%, we're really talking about company productivity. When you're looking at the total allowed hours divided by the total actual hours of the company over a period of time. Um, if you have a high company productivity, something, around 108% or even higher, that means that you have a lot of unused time. That's a lot of time that could be used for additional revenue that could be used to improve the KPI that we're talking about. On the opposite side, we've got, if you have a low company productivity, something, around 92% or maybe even lower, you might be feeling like you're scrambling a lot, you're always pushing jobs later, or you might even be bumping jobs to later days, to other days, because you're not able to get to them because the jobs aren't being allocated for enough time, which is also reducing the amount of revenue that you're able to get during the day. So too high of a productivity of a company productivity and too low of a company productivity can both negatively impact your revenue per technician per day. So the goal that we really want to have is this just right point, our little Goldilocks point here is really between 95 and 105%. The goal is 100% as far as company productivity. I give this range of 95 to 105% because if you're at, 96%, yeah, it might be a little low, but it's probably not going to be your biggest priority that you want to focus on as in terms of strategic efforts or, your operational efforts that you're working towards as far as your KPIs. It might be something you might want to look at later if it continues to drop, if you keep seeing it slide in a direction that you don't want it to go. But as long as it's within that range, it's probably not something that you want to be focusing on, but you always want to be watching it and making sure it's sliding in the direction that you want to, which is towards 100. Okay, so it's always towards 100. It might be going down from, the high ends over 100, or it might be going up from the 90s, but it's towards 100 is the goal that you want to go towards. Hi,
Michelle,
Michelle.
yeah, where do we find these numbers company wide? Where's
Yes, you can calculate this out. You could do a couple of places. You can find averages of it by scope of work on your employee stats page, which is going to take an average of all your technicians' efficiency. And that's just going to be at the bottom of your employee stats. It'll take that average. Or you can use your uh
I think it actually will calculate it for you at the bottom of the employee stats, but it does it by
yep,
scope
it's by
group.
scope.
Scope group, right?
Individual scope of work.
Individual scope. Okay.
Yeah, and so it'll do it by individual scope of work there. Which actually might be the preferred method, actually, just because in terms of quoting, you want to
Yeah.
in adjusting your quoting, you want to adjust quoting at the scope level. So that's actually probably the best place to look. I was going to give another option, but now I'm not. That's the best place to look, employee stats.
And we're making a dashboard widget that's going to be giving you those numbers again by scope, but it's gonna make it a lot easier to have that in front of you every day. That's on the roadmap, part of a discussion we had this morning.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a big thing in terms of like quoting when people are talking about if is my quoting right or not. This is the number that you want to be looking at if your quoting is right, is that company productivity number. If you're seeing that company productivity number really driving up and down away from 100, that's going to help drive how you might want to be adjusting your quoting tool. Um, and this varies from company to company. So this is why there's not, one blanket quoting tool template that works for everybody because we all clean a little bit differently. We all have different tools, different methods, different team arrangements, things like that. But if you really want to dial things in and be able to have a really good anything that your quoting affects, which is a lot, this is probably going to be the biggest KPI to be looking at is going to be that company productivity to really get an idea of what your quoting tool is doing for you.
And here's a warning that we could have put on here, maybe for future we will. It's like as you are adjusting your quoting tool, uh, so your allowed times are getting you closer to 100% productivity, you have to adjust your bill rate per hour accordingly. You might, you might have a company productivity of 110% and you're applying $60 to that. If you tighten up on your allowances to get that 110 down to 100, you're going to want to charge something more than 60 an hour to get you back to the same amount of revenue per actual hour you were getting.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. So making adjustments in conjunction with each other, all of those things. I'm actually just going to go back to this one here. None of these things exist in an echo chamber, right? Or exist alone. They all impact each other. They all play a part in this KPI and other KPIs. One of the last slides that we have in this presentation or in this webinar is that it just kind of goes to show how intertwined a lot of these KPIs are. So just remember that when you're changing one thing or if you're looking at one number, be sure to think about how else this could be affecting things or ask. Feel free to ask, hey, I'm making this change. Is there anything else I should be considering? If you're a Made Central user, post it in the hub. Is there any other KPIs I should be watching to make sure that I'm not affecting something negatively with this change? Or Any other considerations I should be making around pay or hourly rates or something like that. So just remember that nothing exists in a bubble on its own. Everything impact talks to each other. They all work together. The company is one big organization, one little organism. So yeah, that's a really good point. All right. So now we can kind of pull this down to, there's a couple of next pieces as far as reducing time between jobs and increasing productivity. So these kind of work together as far as increasing our revenue per day per technician. So reducing time between jobs, this is going to be your scheduling efficiency. A couple of big pointers that we have along this is using a home zone color system, and I'll show an example on this. Using home zones to really make scheduling easy with very little effort beyond having a good system in place. Um, Having a consistent recurring schedule. There's that word again, consistency, being able to have a recurring schedule that you're not having to touch and move things around all the time. That the only time that you're really moving those recurring jobs is when something can't happen that way. You know, the technician isn't available or the home isn't able to be cleaned on that day. Something like that. But otherwise, having a good consistent schedule that you can stick to helps reduce that time between jobs. And then being able to evaluate routes for optimization, having good tools for that. In Made Central, we've got our schedule efficiency map, which gives route optimization and gives you exactly how many minutes or miles you might be saving by optimizing that route. But also just being able to pop your addresses into Google Maps and saying like, hey, is there a better route we could be taking on this day or on this team? Is there a better way we could be arranging these jobs? I think it is good to note that sometimes people might hyper focus in on the scheduling efficiency. So don't go too far into this because cleaning businesses are a sum of moving parts. There's always things moving and changing. And as soon as you think you might have it perfect, something's going to have to move because of life. So don't spend too much time making it perfect, but make sure that spend a lot of time building systems to make the best decisions that you can with the options that you have available. That's the big point that we want to make here, is that it's not spending a lot of time on all the individual minuscule little pieces that you can move. It's spending a lot of time on the systems that we want to create so that we can have as efficient of schedules as we can with the information and the houses and resources that we have available. I really wish I could see people's heads nodding because I'm sure Michelle's head is nodding. She's always a head nodder for me. So, but I hope that makes sense. Um, but this also works with increasing our productivity. So when we have consistent homes, or being able to have technicians going to the same homes over on, that helps increase the productivity in homes because they get familiar with them. They are able to plan accordingly as far as, you know, what am I going to be cleaning this time based off of what I cleaned last time or deep clean last time, things like that. Having resources for your technicians in the field. You know, what do I do if my vacuum breaks? Do I have to call the office and have them talk me through, you know, how to fix my vacuum or how to troubleshoot my vacuum? Or what do I do when there's gum stuck to the countertop? Like what resources do they have available to them at their fingertips to kind of reduce anything that might impact their productivity, which will, if they have to spend an hour fixing their vacuum because they're waiting for somebody to get back to them, whereas if they could have fixed it
Giving
themselves.
them a screwdriver and a wrench might improve productivity.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big one. And then we already talked about accurately timed jobs. So that's one part of that is on the quoting side, bringing them in accurately quoted, but then two, adjusting them quickly when we see that they're not, maybe they weren't brought in on an accurate quote. Um, and then having some performance requirements around productivity, especially if you're paying hourly. I think that one's probably a really big point. It's less, I'm not going to say it isn't an issue. It's less of an issue for
Pay
pay
for performance.
that one. If you're paying like fee split, percentage, job ticket hours, something like that, that kind of has an inherent motivation related to speed or related to productivity, but when you're paying hourly, it almost has the opposite motivation. So if you are paying hourly, it's a very recommended that you have some sort of performance requirement around productivity, especially if you're paying hourly, but still recommended if you're paying the other types as well, because it is very much linked to how they're paid. Um, so ways to increase that to help really maximize your revenue capacity is a big part of this.
Training is part of productivity, having the right equipment, and don't skimp on cleaning cloths and
Mhm.
the tools you use to clean with. Your labor costs so much more than paying an extra 50 cents for a higher quality microfiber cloth, for
Yeah.
instance. And Made Central measures performance at a cleaning professional level for both efficiency as well as productivity. Make sure that somebody's monitoring that, and we're recognizing good performance, and we're coaching when the numbers aren't where they need to be. That, as much as anything, will get you better outcomes on both efficiency and productivity.
Yeah. Yeah, these ones I was scared about how long we could go on efficiency and productivity because there's so much that can impact these. So really taking into account anything that you can think of that can really help reduce time in home or reduce time between homes. Um, and it's there's a lot other smaller things that impact this that I think people forget about, like the tools that you have available to you in home, in your caddy.
Mhm.
That's huge. If you don't have a screwdriver to help on your vacuum and you have to wait for somebody to bring one to you, that has a big impact on things. So I love it.
So we have about 15 minutes for the
I know.
top of the hour.
We're getting there. So just some examples on home zones. If you are able to use home zones to kind of, we've got an example, two examples here. One on the left is one that could use some improvement. One on the right is an example of some home zones that you can use for some logical routing. And what I mean here on the left-hand side is, let me see if I can get a laser pointer going. Is everybody able to see my laser pointer?
Yes.
Cool. So I've got like this yellow box here, and then I've got another yellow one down here. It's a bigger one. I forgot to move the picture a little bit, but if I saw two houses on the schedule that were those same color, I might think that they were close together, but really they're pretty far apart across Kansas City. So that would be something that would take more time to schedule efficiently, but would also have a pretty big impact on the schedule and how much revenue we could do on the day because it would probably push that schedule back really far. Whereas on this one, you're able to tell which houses are close to each other because the colors are really similar to each other. And we're also using like the geographical knowledge of knowing that there's a river in between these areas so that even though these two look like they're close together, the colors aren't the same because you can't just swim across the river with your caddy. Would be cool, but probably not what we're working towards. So we have some tips and tricks on this as well. So I don't want to go too far into that one. All right, a little bit of math time here, but hopefully not too crazy. This is an interesting concept. We want to talk a little bit about teams versus solos in terms of revenue per day per technician, because it does have a little bit of a place here, and it's an interesting concept. So when we're looking at a team, here's a team of two technicians. We've got 4 homes. Each are just 3 labor hours, and we're scheduling 15 minutes of drive time between each home. This gives us labor time of 12 hours, total non-productive time of 1.5 hours, which is these 3 15 minutes, which is 45 minutes times 2 technicians, right? So we've got same way that we would charge per person per hour. We're looking at the labor time of how we're paying technicians per person per hour on this non-productive time as well. So the non-productive time of 45 minutes per person per hour equals a total of 1.5 hours. So this gives us a total clock time. I highlighted them all in bold. So we're adding these bold numbers together to get a total clock time of 13.5 hours. Now, if we take the same amount of work, right? So we've got the first example on the top. If we take the same amount of work and have 2 technicians, but now create 2 teams as solos, we've got the same 4 jobs at 3 labor hours. 15 minutes of drive time between those. Break this down. Total labor hours are still 12 hours. Our non-productive time now is only a half an hour. We've got 15 minutes times 2, which is going to be 30 minutes or half an hour. And again, adding together their total clock hours gives us 12.5. So got our little summaries up here at the top. Overall, this saves us 1 hour of total clock time, saves us an hour of non-productive time though, which I think is kind of the big part here, is that the hour that we're saving is non-productive time. It's time not in home, it's time driving, it's windshield time, which I also like to call complain to my partner time, because that's what I used to do when I was in the car between
Oh,
houses.
yeah.
I'm being honest. It's human nature,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
And
anyways,
you know that savings can be the savings in non-productive time could be more if you're having people show up at the office at the beginning of the day and come back to the office at the end of the day. The savings can really be material versus
yeah.
solos who are working from their home.
Yeah, so that just in this example, this is just one team. Um, so one team, 1 hour of paid time a day of non-productive paid time. If you're paying hourly, this is even more expensive than if you're not. But if you're getting into overtime, this could be extremely expensive or extremely beneficial, right? If you're able to reduce that time. So just in this example, over the course of the year, if we're able to reduce that down by that 1 hour, that's 260 hours of clock time saved. And if we're paying 15 an hour, which is very low in terms of our averages, that's almost $4,000 a year saved in hourly wages if you're paying hourly, or if you're paying overtime on uh, pay for performance. So same thing, same level of savings. And then as in addition to what Tom said as well, if you are, teams often do start and end at the office, which can add in another 30 to 45 minutes of paid time as well, which doubles that non-productive time that we talked about. So that's an additional 3,900 to 5,850 per year at 15 an hour. And that's actually probably a little on the high side because there's days off and stuff like that. So I did 52 weeks exactly, but it probably could be at like 51 weeks. So you might be able to shave off a year of that, but still for just a single team, the idea of looking for where you might be able to see opportunities for solos, it might not mean a total switch to solos by any means, especially if that's your big model, but there are some opportunities where you might be able to increase that revenue per day sometimes, or be able to help reduce hours for people if they're pushing that overtime limit, while still being able to make the most of your productive time. Any
But
questions on this?
But if
Oh
you
yeah, go
have
ahead.
customers who want you in and out of the house quickly, teams are the way to go. If you've got really
Absolutely.
large homes that have a lot of labor hours in them, teams are the way to go. So there's no really right or wrong there. It's just being mindful that, you know, team composition, number of people on a team will affect your efficiency, which gets back to revenue per technician per day. The example that we looked at here, the revenue per technician in the one-person team and the two-person team is the same,
Is
but
the same.
it took less clock hours with the solos. And in a lot of other scenarios, we could show you that with less clock hours, there's an opportunity to put an extra home on the schedule or to do
Mm-hmm.
add-on work, and the homes are there where they actually can take that extra time and turn it into more revenue that day.
Exactly. Yeah. So this leads right into Michelle's question of what is the average revenue per day for a team of two? I haven't separated that out. So the averages that we gave
That's a good
are,
question.
it's a great question. So I would love to go through and find those comparisons between the two because I don't know. Right now we're just looking at it a blanket across the board, comparing solos to teams. But that would be a really, really amazing question, actually. All right. Any other questions on these ones? I don't know how to turn off my laser pointer. There it is. Okay. I did throw this in here because it came up during our conversation, but where do tips factor in? Um, Tips are not part of actual revenue, but they do affect the equivalent daily pay for technicians, which increase their pay, which helps reduce turnover. So it may not affect your ongoing projections in terms of revenue per day per technician, but any way that you can increase tips is a way to reduce turnover, which is one of our core KPIs. So it's a way to help improve your business. So it may not totally fit into this KPI, but it still plays a part in terms of how the technician's revenue and how the technician's productivity plays into their ability to make tips. So just a little piece to pay attention to. And then
So
kind of, oh yeah.
Karen's asking us a question here about where do we find this KPI? I'm assuming revenue per technician per day.
Oh yeah,
Where,
so revenue per technician per day, you will be able to find that on your core KPI dashboard in Made Central. Or you can calculate it out on an individual basis using employee stats, which will show on your employee stats. Each employee will have a column that shows revenue generated, and it will also have a column that shows days worked during that period of time. So you'll take that revenue generated divided by days worked to get the generated revenue per day by individual employee, or you can go to the bottom of the page and do total revenue divided by total days worked for a period of time. All right. And kind of, wrapping this all together is consistency, the big C word. Consistency is key. Whether you advertise it or not, everyone is happier when your technicians are able to be consistent. Your customers are happier because they're able to have a consistent technician in their home. They know the same person has access to their toothbrush and their toilet at the same time. It's a level of trust that you want to be able to have with the person that's in your home. It helps with predictable arrival times. If they have the same houses on the same rotation, they know when they're going to arrive to the next house throughout the day. And they are able to get consistent quality of service if they have the same technician in their home. So that helps improve their stickiness with your company. So reducing customer attrition. Which probably makes them want to buy more add-ons and be willing to take price increases and all of that stuff, increasing your revenue per day. Your technicians are happier because they're able to get more familiar with their homes. They're able to increase their productivity. They give a higher quality, which increases their tips because their customers are happier. So now they're making more money as well. They can also get predictable drives. Not only are the houses really predictable in terms of what they're doing in home, but if they know the route to their houses, they're not getting lost. There's no, accidental increases in non-productive time because they're not sure where they're going, or they have to take a different route because they don't know where they're going. But they can choose the best route and make logical decisions because they know what houses they're going to. And this all benefits the company in general because happier technicians reduces turnover, reduces customer attrition, reduces costs of goods because training is so unbelievably expensive. So if you can reduce turnover, holy cow, can you reduce a lot of expenses? And it just has massive benefits for productivity and efficiency, which,
reducing technician turnover fixes a ton of problems. And
yeah, it
consistency is a
does.
big part of that.
Yeah. So, and all of these are pieces that we talked about are things that can improve your revenue per technician per day. So this was that slide that I was talking about that just kind of like, you can see how this KPI just kind of ties everything together.
What else we got here?
Just a couple of wrapping up points. So, just some specific things that you can do in Made Central to drive this KPI, tracking your individual productivity and efficiency, rate adjustments for underpriced homes as quickly as possible, having logical home zones, using schedule efficiency map for recurring services, having your customer portal active so that customers can add add-on services themselves to their services, doing regular price increases. I mean, you don't just have to do them once a year, and we don't recommend it. Do it once a month for everybody who hasn't gotten an increase for a year. And then looking for opportunities to use solo technicians when you can. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul of your business model, but maybe occasionally it can do something to help when you might need it to help reduce overtime or increase productivity.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we got here. So a couple of little things that might help out. If you don't have this yet, if you don't have a physical copy, you can download our Core KPI calendar here. I will type this into the chat. Ooh,
That's a lot to type.
I got it. So you can download our calendar here. This has all the dates for our upcoming core KPIs, as well as just kind of the equations for them, how it affects profit, why it's important, and then the activity list that we kind of talk about during the webinars as well. If you haven't used the toolbox yet, highly recommend. This is an example of, making small changes can have really big results. Um, this was from our cleanings per month per home, but same idea that if you're able to improve something, a small percentage, you can have really big impacts on your business. Definitely make a profile on here if you haven't. It's free. Use it up. There's no reason not to. I think we answered all the questions as they came up. So if you have any more, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll kind of finish up with some of our last little thoughts.
Karen's making the point that she does rate increases monthly based on anniversary date, and that's a good way to do it. In Made Central, you can find a time period like X number of months since the last rate increase or rate adjustment for that particular service set. So you don't even have to do rate increases on an annual basis. You can do it every 11 months, every 10 months. And if inflation is, a thing such as it has been, but it's still worse than historically it has been, you might want to consider doing it more frequently than every 12 months.
yeah. And then here people were asking us where are our live streams or what live streams do we have? So we've got a couple coming up here. And we've got another one today, which is our Smart Business Moves. Our guest is Candice Rodriguez with natural care cleaning and also foundations, correct? Or smart core profit builders.
She's a coach for Liz Trotter now in
Yeah,
Core
she's a
Profit
core
Builders.
profit coach. Yeah. So um I'm going to be tuning into that because I love her. She's got some great things. So I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. We'll be back with our partner profile next week with our guest Kim Sandberg, and then Smart Business Moves next week as well with Chris Schwab. And then in 2 weeks, we've got our Foundations of Success series, which Tom is doing. You're doing that with Liz, right? Or Liz is doing that with you. You're
Well,
doing
we're doing it together.
you're
Yeah.
doing it together.
Liz Liz is doing it and I'm helping. How about that?
There we go. And that is an ongoing series that you can register for at coreprofitbuilders.com. It is an ongoing series on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. All of this can be found at madecentral.com/calendar, or at least the ones for Smart Business Moves and the partner profile. I don't think we have the Foundations of Success series on there yet, but I do plan on putting that one on there. But you can keep that one. If you subscribe to that calendar, any changes that we make or any new, even one-off webinars or live streams that we do will be on there. And then if you want to follow any of these platforms are the places that we live stream to. Some of these are Facebook pages or YouTube channels, but these are all the places that you can find us when we are live streaming or webinaring. But we look forward to seeing your faces wherever we can.
And we showed earlier the live event we're doing in Charleston in September. You register for that by going to madecentral.academy. If you found this information useful, but are still kind of figuring out, well, how do I do all of this? This particular event is like a 3-day event. We do a deep dive on all of those core KPIs. So this is really what if you want to do a deeper dive in what we talked about here today and a lot more, this event at madecentral.academy is what you want to sign up for.
Yes, and Stillian, you did ask, I saw you at the last webinar as well. So the AI is open to non-subscribers and the regional event is definitely open up to non-subscribers of Made Central. So both of those, you do not have to be a Made Central user to go to both of those events. So we would love to see you, love to meet you. Even our live event in Charleston is open to non-Made Central users as well. So feel free,
But
we are
the
we are
tools
here
that
to
we're
help
going to the
people.
tools that we're going to be sharing at the AI event in Chicago are outside of Made Central. I mean, we might show you a little bit in Made Central in terms of how you can use it, but it doesn't matter what CRM you're using or ERP. The AI event will be useful to everybody in the house cleaning industry.
Absolutely. Great question.
We
All
are
right.
past the top of the hour. How did that happen?
Woo! It was a fast one. But thank you guys for making it. I'm sorry for the kerfuffle with the times. That was all my goof. I am a time zone messer upper galore the past couple of weeks. So hopefully that's the last one. I think we've caught the rest of them, but I appreciate you guys' flexibility and ability to show up. Keep an eye out for the recording for this. It should be rendering as soon as we finish up here, and we will send that up as soon as we can. But we appreciate your guys' time and hope to see you guys next month.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh no, where'd it go?